everybody, and welcome to the next episode in the British Touring Car 2023 race reviews. With me is my good friend Ben. Say hello.
Hello.
And today we're going to be reviewing the action that was Snetterton. Now, fair to say, there wasn't as much action as there was at Brands Hatch. Now, the weather didn't play its part, other than being nice and scorching hot. If you happened to be there, then you were very lucky. There was a bit of an interesting weekend ahead, though, as there was actual multiple tyre choices available here. So we had the soft, the medium, and the hards. So it meant that I think it was each car, every driver had to use one of the compounds per race. Right, I mean, you could pick whichever one you want to start on, which meant various strategies on whether you'd start on the hards for the first race and try and make your way through the pack, or use them for the reverse grid. So overall, like I said, a very warm weekend, but to just jump into the qualifying, things were going quite well. However, we had oil dropped by Nick Halstead's car, which saw 3 or 4 cars go flying off at high speed, and luckily we didn't have too much damage. We had Dan Lloyd, Dexter Patterson, Colin Turkington, and Stephen Jelly with both the BMWs going off pretty quickly. Patterson did come off with a bit of damage. Turkington was lucky to not come off with more. He hit it square on and luckily didn't damage his steering. But because of all the oil and everything, this brought out the red flag for the first time in the session. Once things did get back underway, it was obviously the Fords of Napa Racing once again that went pretty fast. We got another red flag though when Dan Camish's car came to a stop. However, this time, it wasn't on fire, unlike at Donington last year. But in terms of qualifying, there wasn't too much action apart from that. There was a smashing lap by Sutton, put him head and shoulders above the rest. So the pole time for Ash Sutton was a 1:54.526 from Tom Ingram and Colin Turkington, who were about 3.5 tenths, a little over 4 tenths back. So pretty big margin from Ash Sutton to the rest. Moving into race 1 though, we had a great start by Ash Sutton as Ingram bogged down at the start and he dropped down to 4th place. The BMW lot went head to head with Collard's Toyota and Ingram's Hyundai. Collard tried to get ahead of Hill but got pushed wide, but wasn't letting up on getting ahead of him though, so he kept him honest. We had Bobby Thompson and Dan Lloyd go head to head with each other. Whilst all this was going on though, Sutton pulled out a mighty lead. And by the end of the first lap, pulled out over 2 seconds, which was absolutely phenomenal to watch. Really, I mean, as I said before, he was head and shoulders above the rest. He was really one with the car, I suppose you could say. Dan Camish did manage to get up. Well, he managed to move up 8 positions after the first lap, after being thrown out after qualifying the day before, which meant he was quickly into the points. Then we had Ingram getting past Collard for 4th into turn 1 at the start of lap 3. On the same lap, we saw Stephen Jelly pass Josh Cook for 8th place down the back straight. Ronan Pearson and Mikey Doble took on the Team Hard Coopers in a fun little battle, with Pearson managing to get the upper hand of Bobby Thompson on lap 4. As the race progressed though, the BMWs and Ingram's Hyundai, who were running the soft tyres, warmed up enough to start to eat into the lead that Sutton had made in the previous few laps, so it was game on for the win. Lap 6 saw Ricky Collard retire with mechanical problems. We later found out this was a water pump failure alarm. At lap 7 though, the following lap, was significant for Dan Camish as he managed to crack the top 10 after starting 25th for the race. As the race went on, the BMW started to squabble amongst themselves as Hill tried everything to get past Turkington. And on lap 9, he managed to push his way past and was even on the grass as he went down the back straight. And from here, he really started to attack Sutton's lead. As the race went on, obviously, the gap went from, I think it was 2.5 seconds down to 2. And by the time we got to the last lap, it was down to a couple of tenths of a second. What we actually got, though, was Hill versus Sutton. The BMW tried his best to find a way past the Ford, but in the end it wasn't enough as Ash Sutton held on to take his 30th BTCC win and the first of the day, with Jake Hill finishing behind him by less than 3 tenths of a second and Colin Turkington coming home in 3rd to round out the podium. So your race 1 results were Ash Sutton was your race winner, with Jake Hill and Colin Turkington alongside him on the podium. Tom Ingram was 4th, also picking up a point for the fastest lap, with Adam Morgan in 5th, Stephen Jelly in 6th, Dan Rowbottom in 7th, Josh Cook in 8th, Rory Butcher in 9th, and Aaron Taylor-Smith in 10th. Over to you for race 2, Ben.
Yeah, so for race 2, we had a really good start for Sutton especially. Hill and Turkington got a good getaway as well. Sutton managed to keep the lead all the way round the lap, and it was you could see then the 3 BMWs had sort of followed in his lead and they were all chasing him down. Then, not long into the lap, probably like 2/3 of the way through, we then all of a sudden see that Josh Cook's car is losing position after position after position, and is getting slower, and eventually gets passed by everyone. You can see in the back shot of near of every other camera view, he's behind everyone. Coming on to lap 2, you see that Collard's managed to get up to 18th, and he just keeps gaining places. It's great to see. He's getting through the field on, I think he's on the soft tyre. And Sutton has managed to build up a 4-second lead at this point. He was also on the soft tyre. On lap 4, Robo dives up the inside of Adam Morgan, and as Adam Morgan tries to get the cutback to get past him, he hits the side of him. You can see lots of bits of bodywork just flying off in the process. On lap 5, Collard has managed to get up to 15th. He's gained 12 places so far, and it's really nice to see at this point that he's managed to get through a load of the field, just keeping going through. On lap 8, Aaron Taylor-Smith seems to have a big pack behind him. Like, the pack is just, all of them are biting, just trying to get past at this point, and especially it's containing Chilton and Collard. On lap 9, Collard managed to jump past Pearson and Chilton and starts planning on how to get past Aaron Taylor-Smith, while Aaron Taylor-Smith carries on to defend, but not over the top. He's doing some fair defending, and, you know, like, if any of them really had the speed to somehow get past him, they could have. He wasn't doing anything crazy. Anyway, on the last lap, Sutton got a really nice victory, crossed the line. I think he still had the 4-second lead pretty much at the end as well. So yeah, it was nice to see. He's the first driver since Alan Menu in 1997 to win 4 BTCC races in a row. Brilliant to see. And also the funny fact is, does both in a blue and yellow car. So that's quite interesting. So, your results for race 2 is winner Ash Sutton with fastest lap. Hill is 2nd. Turkington is 3rd. Robo is 4th. Adam Morgan is 5th. Jelly is 6th. Ingram is 7th, Butcher is 8th, 9th is Osborne, and 10th is Lloyd. Over to you for race 3, Brad.
Thank you, Ben. With race 3, though, we got a lot more. If you thought the first 2 races were a bit, you know, like, oh, straightforward, Ash Sutton sort of thing, race 3 was a lot more exciting, if I can say that. Because, well, before the race even began, though, I'll just quickly mention that we had George Gamble's Toyota pull over with a problem, meaning the start was delayed. However, when we actually got underway properly, albeit 1 lap less, with 11 laps instead of 12, we had both the BMWs of Stephen Jelly and Adam Morgan getting a good start. Ash Sutton was on the hard tyres, meaning it'll be hard work going up against all the cars around him, which were on the faster tyres. Turkington got pushed down the order, however Ingram was flying and doing well to move up into 4th. Meanwhile, further back, we saw Dan Lloyd get fired off the track. Lap 2 saw Morgan started to drop down the order, with Butcher moving up into 3rd, with Robo managing to hit the lead. Ingram also going through as well. But we weren't done yet, as Butcher got past Jelly before the lap was over. On to lap 3, and we saw a 3-way scrap between Sutton, Jelly and Morgan for 4th place, whilst at the front we saw Ingram trying to get past Rowbottom. More drama at the back, though, as we had Tom Chilton, Ronan Pearson and Aaron Taylor-Smith all fighting out of position, with Aaron Taylor-Smith getting caught in a Hyundai sandwich, which eventually fired him off the circuit and into the barriers, which damaged his car. During this race, anyone running the soft tyres gained a huge advantage. One of these was Josh Cook, who by the end of lap 4 was up to 12th place from the back. On lap 5, Tom Ingram finally got his man, putting an easy move on Dan Rowbottom into turn 1 to take the lead. To make matters worse for Dan Rowbottom, Butcher later took 2nd away from him, which dropped into 3rd in the same lap. Chilton versus Collard and Moffat versus Turkington and Cook. By the way, so that's Moffat versus Turkington and Cook. All happened on lap 6, meaning it was all action for this race so far. Throwing the fact that Dan Camish was up to 4th and setting the fastest lap, and the BMWs were kicking off at each other for position, has to have been arguably the best race of the day by far. Josh Cook seemed to love picking off the BMWs as he took both Turkington and Hill for 9th and then 8th place respectively. Camish then took Butcher for 2nd, which set us up for a great finale between him and Ingram in the closing laps. As if one Honda taking the BMWs wasn't enough, it was then Moffat's turn to do the same as he took Hill and Morgan within less of the corner after Hill tried to dive bomb, Morgan, and it backfired, and yeah, fair to say there was a bit of contact as well, so it didn't look great for the BMWs this race for sure. In the end though, it was less than a second that separated Ingram and Camish at the start of the final lap, meaning it was anyone's guess as to who was going to win. But in the end, it was Tom Ingram who won the chaotic final race of the day, ahead of Dan Camish and Rory Butcher rounding out the podium. Post-race, though, it was found that Dan Camish's car was found to have exceeded the ride height, and as such was disqualified from the results, which promoted Dan Rowbottom, another Napa racing car, into the final podium place instead. So your race 3 results were as follows. Tom Ingram was your race winner alongside Rory Butcher and Dan Rowbottom to round out the podium. Ash Sutton was 4th ahead of Josh Cook in 5th, then we had Stephen Jelly, Colin Turkington in 6th and 7th, Aidan Moffat in 8th, Adam Morgan in 9th and Jake Hill rounding out the top 10. The fastest lap did go to Camish, but as I said he was disqualified for that ride height infringement. So what does this do to the driver standings? Well, unsurprisingly, with Ash Sutton's run of form, he tops the table. Albeit by 7 points from Tom Ingram, but he's still right up there. Colin Turkington is in 3rd with 109 points. Then we see Dan Camish and Jake Hill tied for 4th with 98 points each. Ahead of Dan Rowbottom on 69 points. Ahead of Adam Morgan, Rory Butcher, Josh Cook and Bobby Thompson in the end. So, Ben, who would your winners from the weekend be?
Ash Sutton was definitely somebody who I really liked, who did really well on the weekend. The 2 wins, and obviously like the big 4 in a row is amazing to see. In my eyes, Dan Camish did reasonably well. Yeah, everything happened at a right height infringement, but there's all sorts of things that can come into play where it's not technically anybody's fault. There's a number of things that, as they mentioned on there, can happen. And then after that, I'd sort of say, for me, it was maybe like people like Hill did quite well, sort of, kept it like reasonable throughout it. And Turkington did quite well. Noticed the BMW was doing reasonably well, especially in race 2. So yeah, that would be it for me.
I think for me, I'd pick Ash Sutton as well, but I'd probably say Aaron Taylor-Smith, because he had a great defensive drive in race 2. Granted, it was for a couple of laps, but he did really well. Even David Addison said, even David Addison said at the end of the race, he's like, take a bow. Pretty good defensive driving from him. There wasn't too much contact from what I could tell, and he made that
the
Astra
people
pretty
behind
wide.
him on occasion were giving him a little get moving bump.
Yeah, but that's kind of normal in touring cars.
Yeah,
point,
it's nothing.
I will say,
don't want anything bad from anyone.
Yeah, I will say Tom Ingram, for winning, not just for winning the final race, but being quite consistent and having a pointsy weekend, in his words. One thing that does stand out is, even though Ash Sutton has won 4 races, Ingram's only 7 points behind in the championship. I suppose it just goes to show you don't need to win. Like, bear in mind, so out of 9 races, Ingram's won 1. Sutton's won 4, and yet there's 7 points separating at the top of the standings. If that doesn't show you how consistent he is, I don't know what does.
Well, I think Ingram said last year, when I was listening to Midweek Motorsport and did his interview on there, someone in the past told him you could come 4th in every weekend and win the championship, in pretty much every other race.
I suppose he's a bit like Alan Prost in terms of being the professor, working out his points.
If you can just keep your points up there, you don't have to win the championship. You could win the championship without getting 0 race wins if all the other people had really bad weekends. Just quickly going back to Dan Camish for a split second, I do feel sorry for him considering
He's on 98 points, but had he got his second place, he would have been above Turkington in the standings, so he could have come away with a lot more points. But
yeah.
Again, these things do happen, and I mean...
Well, look at Josh Cook. This point normally most seasons, he's normally up there in the top 4 or 5, isn't he?
Well, you say that. We've got Thruxton coming up next, so anything's possible.
Exactly.
But what's our thoughts on the weekend? What are your thoughts on this weekend's racing at Snetterton? Did you enjoy it? Did you not like it? Let us know down in the comments as always. And from myself and from Ben, we will see you in a couple of weeks' time for when we are at the fastest circuit on the calendar, which is Thruxton. Josh Cook's dominance, I guess, may continue, considering he's known as the king of Thruxton. Although, will he come away with that crown? Who knows? Until then, though, thank you very much for watching, your continued support for all the videos that we do. And from myself and from Ben, we'll see you at the Thruxton race review in a few weeks' time. So until then, thanks for watching, and of course, as always, ta-ra.
Bye.